A winter weather advisory will be in effect starting at 5 o'clock this afternoon and continuing until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Meteorologist Ryan Leach with the National Weather Service office in Missoula said the heaviest snow will be falling in northwest Montana from Kalispell to West Glacier, with smaller amounts near Missoula.
Really concerned about blowing and drifting snow, especially up in the Kalispell, West Glacier area. So for some of the storm totals we're looking at in northwest Montana, about 8 to 12 inches of snow during the day on Saturday. So that's going to be the big snow period. And then Saturday night, the winds are going to pick up. So there'll be some areas that are going to have blizzard-type conditions. And there's just going to be a lot of areas that have trouble with blowing and drifting snow. And when you have that much snow and add the blowing and drifting, it makes it hard, if not impossible, for the road crews to keep up with it. So that's what we're looking at up there. Down in Missoula, we're looking at, closer to somewhere maybe, 3 to 6 inches of snow. It really depends on how much of that warm air we get in and how much of it comes down as rain. During the day Saturday, I would not be at all surprised to see it transition to rain completely for a while.
Leach said the snow will be measured in feet in the mountain passes. At the University of Montana Charter Day celebration last night at the Denison Theater, it started off with Mayor John Engen in his typical humorous fashion, introducing a resolution.
It's with some chagrin that I note a milestone in my life, and that is that for the first time in these many years living in Missoula, Montana, the president of the University of Montana is younger than I am.
President Seth Bodner quoted from the original charter that created the university in 1893.
The object of the University of Montana shall be to provide the best and most efficient manner of imparting to young men and women, on equal terms, a liberal education and thorough knowledge of the different branches of literature, science, and the arts. 125 years later, we've built upon that foundation.
Bodner then took the university into the present.
We've added more areas of study: wildlife biology, creative writing, business, law, journalism, education. We've added new laboratories, new classrooms, auditoriums, residence halls. We've built our state's flagship research university into a model for innovation, for research, student engagement, experiential learning, and excellence.
The entire week has been dedicated to celebration of UM's 125th anniversary. Following the murder of 17 students at a Florida high school Wednesday, Montana's Superintendent of Public Instruction, Elsie Arnson, said she had reached out to her counterpart in Florida with a message of prayer and support. Arnson said the suspect, a former student, had several experiences that may have helped shape his life that led to the shootings.
Something happened with that student. My understanding, there was an expulsion. There might have been some bullying. There was things that were going on. So when you get to that horrific thing that happens in a school that affects the community and the state, that's the end. But we must have more influence in the very beginning part of it.
Arnson said the issue must be tackled by local school boards throughout the country.
They are given that credence and authority via our Constitution, as well as the discussion on making sure that children are safe. It's wrapped in law. So it needs to be a local control discussion, and it must happen. It should not happen just because of something horrific that occurred in another state. It needs to be part of our fabric in public school.
19-year-old Nicholas Cruz was charged yesterday with 17 counts of first-degree murder at Broward County, Florida. A Trout Creek couple is facing stiff fines and hunting restrictions after Montana wardens began an investigation into accusations of improper purchase of resident licenses. FWP spokesman Dylan Tabish said the case got much larger.
It evolved into a much larger case that included illegally hunting game animals over bait and using a very significant amount of supplemental feeding to attract game animals. And as our investigator Brian Summers discovered and said, this was one of the most severe cases of providing supplemental feed to wildlife that he had encountered in his 32-year career.
Tabish says multiple species were killed illegally.
There was a bull elk that was shot on a resident license that was confiscated, a mule deer buck that was shot on a resident license that was confiscated, a white-tailed buck, and a black bear that was shot. The animals were killed anywhere between 2012 up through 2015. Mr. Ricks was charged with 56 citations in both Sanders and Gallatin counties.
Dylan Ricks entered a plea agreement with fines totaling over $10,000. His wife, Cheryl Ricks, entered a plea agreement with fines over $3,000. She faced 11 different citations. Reimbursement rate cuts by the Montana Department of Health and Human Services at the direction of Governor Steve Bullock are causing significant losses in the number of mental health care case managers across Montana. Psychiatric nurse practitioner Kay Jennings runs the Winds of Change Mental Health Center in Missoula. It says she knows of around 45 job cuts in the Missoula area alone. She believes the loss of these case managers will lead to more homelessness, crime, and suicide in Montana.
We take care of their money for them so they don't overspend it. So we keep them from homelessness. We keep them in seeing their psychiatrist, their therapist, to get the medication so that they don't end up doing something erratic if they're bipolar or have schizophrenia. And with depression, the suicidality, those populations are really at risk. And I think we're going to see a trickle-down effect from the termination of many, many case managers in Montana.
Jennings runs 5 group homes in Missoula for those transitioning out of the state hospital and back into daily life and work. She says the average stay is over 260 days, but that a current proposal would slash that number.
State's talking about cutting that back to 120 days. I mean, the homelessness problem is just going to get worse. And if you have a person that has a psychiatric illness that has a family or children, if you have a sick parent, it affects the children. So I think we're going to see a trickle-down effect. And the institutions are full already, overbedded. Prisons are full. Everything's full. The cuts will be felt by all of society.
Even without cuts in case management and group homes, Montana regularly has one of the highest rates of suicide in the country. Early numbers are not promising for 2018. Dr. Will Stratford of Missoula says he knows of 11 suicides that occurred during just 1 week so far this year. Our News Talk time, 6:12.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Snow likely today, but early on, our snow accumulation should stay relatively light. However, 1 to 3 inches will be possible tonight. A winter storm watch goes in effect for the weekend. We're looking for a storm total Saturday and Sunday of 5 to 10 inches. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster, KECI 13.